Captain Ryan Voss stood tall as the shining towers of the Celestis spire came into view through the shuttle's window. The massive fortress floated in space like a silver crown above the Valari homeworld. He had seen many strange places in his years with Earth's united forces, but this one was different, elegant, alien. And now, his new home. His mission was clear. Protect Queen Zilari Thal, ruler of the Valari Empire. The Valari were not like humans. They were taller, their skin a smooth pale blue, and their large eyes shimmered like stars. They didn't speak with mouths but used telepathy, silent thoughts shared directly into the mind. To some humans that was disturbing, but to Ryan, it was just another job, or so he thought. He stepped off the shuttle, dressed in sleek dark armor, his sharp eyes scanning everything. Valari guards stood in rows, their armor glowing with energy. They didn't welcome him. In fact, they looked at him like he didn't belong. A smaller figure waited at the top of the steps, Queen Zilari herself. She wore a flowing robe that shimmered like moonlight. A golden crown sat lightly on her brow. Her face was calm, unreadable, but her voice came clearly into his mind. "You are the human called Ryan Voss. I have read your file. Many victories, many scars." Ryan gave a respectful nod. "I'm here to keep you alive, Your Majesty." For a moment she said nothing. Then, with a small gesture, she turned and began walking. "We shall see." Inside the spire, things were colder, not just the air, but the atmosphere. The Valari nobility whispered in thought, judging him silently. Ryan didn't care. He had trained in deserts, fought in jungles, survived airless moons. He wasn't here to win hearts. He was here to do a job. The Queen's chambers were guarded by energy barriers and watched by silent drones. Ryan was given a private room nearby, connected to her main chamber by a secure hallway. For the first few days, she spoke little to him. She studied him instead, his movements, his training routines, his decisions during minor security drills. One night, as Ryan patrolled the upper garden, a floating piece of land held by artificial gravity, he saw her standing alone, watching the stars. He approached slowly. "You should have an escort, Your Majesty." She didn't turn. Her voice entered, his mind soft but strong. "I know you are here, that is enough." He looked at her, unsure what to say. She finally turned to face him. "Your people are young. You rush, you fight, yet you win. Why?" Ryan crossed his arms. "Because when we care about something, we don't stop fighting for it." That answer made her pause. Then, unexpectedly, she smiled. "Interesting." A week passed. Then came the first attack. It was supposed to be a meeting with outer delegates, but something felt wrong. Ryan's instincts kicked in. As the Queen stepped into the hall, he grabbed her arm and pulled her back, just as a drone exploded near the ceiling. Debris flew everywhere. Chaos erupted. Ryan covered her with his body, shielding her from falling shards. When the smoke cleared, he had minor burns, but the Queen was untouched. She looked at him wide-eyed, not with fear, but something else. "You bled for me." Ryan smirked, blood dripping from his cheek. "Better me than you." After that, something changed. The Queen started inviting him to her meetings. She asked him questions, not just about security, but about Earth, about humans, about his life. He told her stories of growing up on a poor colony, joining the military, losing friends in battle. She listened, fascinated. He asked her about her people, and she spoke of duty, tradition, and the weight of the crown. In the training halls, she challenged him to a duel, not with weapons, but in a test of reflexes. She moved like flowing water, graceful and quick. He was strong, grounded, sharp. They both lost track of time. After one session, as they rested side by side on the floor, she looked up at the high ceiling. "I feel peace when I am near you, that is unusual." Ryan blinked. "I feel like I'm finally doing something that matters." Their eyes met. Nothing was said, but something was growing. something quiet and powerful. Not everyone was pleased. The Queen's advisors started to whisper louder. One of them, Counselor Vathan, confronted Ryan in the hall. "You are dangerous," he said. "You distract her, you cloud her judgment. This will not be allowed." Ryan didn't blink. "You're welcome to try and remove me." Before things could escalate, the Queen arrived. Her voice echoed through their minds with sudden force. Enough. She stood beside Ryan, her posture proud. Her tone left no room for argument. "Captain Voss remains. Anyone who speaks against him speaks against me." From that moment, the court knew something had changed. One night, as a soft artificial rain fell over the spire's upper dome, Rian found her standing under the droplets, unbothered by the water on her skin. He walked beside her silently. "I've been in more wars than I can count," he said, "but I've never felt like this." She looked at him. "And what do you feel?" He hesitated. "Like the war is over. When I'm with you." The rain continued to fall, but everything else stopped. Her hand touched his. "Then let us enjoy the peace, while it lasts." But far across the stars, dark ships gathered. Enemies whispered. The Tarkun Dominion, watching from the shadows, saw the Queen's closeness to the human not as love, but as weakness, and they were ready to strike. Ever since the assassination attempt, Captain Ryan Voss never let the Queen out of his sight. He doubled the guard shifts, changed patrol routes, and made sure every corridor of the Celestis Spire was swept for threats. The Valari soldiers still didn't like him, but they obeyed. They had seen what he did, how he threw himself into danger for their Queen. But now, danger wasn't always visible. Strange things were happening in the palace. Doors that should have been locked were found, open. Meeting rooms were rearranged, files missing, data erased. Security drones glitched without reason, and yet, no alarms went off. It was as if the threat was hiding in plain sight. Ryan couldn't shake the feeling. He brought the matter to the Queen. "We're being watched," he said, walking beside her in the Spire's garden corridor. "Of course," she replied calmly. "I am always watched." Ryan frowned. "Not by your people, someone else, someone hiding their thoughts." That made her stop walking. Valari were powerful telepaths. They could read emotions, sometimes even full thoughts. But only if the target wasn't shielding their mind. "No Valari would block me," she said. "That would be a betrayal." "Exactly," Ryan said. "So either someone is lying, or something else is happening." She looked troubled for the first time. If there were traitors in the palace, it meant the danger was deeper than anyone imagined. Later that day, Ryan sat in his room, reviewing security footage. Hours passed. His eyes burned from staring at the screens. Then he had a cloaked figure moving through the Queen's corridor, completely invisible to drones. No identity, no heat signature. Only the smallest flicker when the light bent around the shape. Ryan zoomed in. The figure placed a strange black crystal under the Queen's table, then vanished. "Got you," Ryan whispered. Ryan ran to the Queen's chamber. She was alone, reading a floating data scroll. When he entered, she looked up. "You found something?" "Someone planted this," he said, showing her the footage. "It's cloaked tech. No heat, no sound, invisible to your systems." She stood up quickly, her eyes narrowed. "That's Tarkun tech." Tarkun. The ancient enemies of the Valari. A cruel empire known for breaking worlds and twisting truth. If they had infiltrated the Spire, war was near. Ryan scanned the room and quickly found the device. It was tiny, cold and pulsing with unreadable energy. "We need your scientists to crack this," he said. "It's not just a bomb, it's a spy tool. Or worse." That night, the Queen called a secret meeting with her most trusted advisors. Only 5 of them were allowed. Ryan stood by her side, watching every face. One of them, Counselor Vathan, spoke loudly. "This is why I warned you about trusting outsiders. A human brings chaos into our palace. Rian's jaw tightened, but the Queen raised a hand. Captain, Voss uncovered a threat no one else saw. Another advisor, Elira, added, Then the enemy is smarter than we thought. If they can hide from us, they might be inside this room. The chamber grew silent. Rian looked at each of them. I fought the Tarkoon. They don't attack with honor. They stab you from behind, then blame someone else. We need to look closer. But the Queen ended the meeting early. Something in her expression told Rian she was disturbed, not just by the threat, but by something deeper. Days passed. The Queen and Ryan spent more time together, not just for security, but because they trusted each other. She felt safe near him. He felt calm. One evening, they stood at the spire's edge, looking down at the glowing planet below. Do you miss your world? She asked. Every day, he said. But right now, this place, this moment, it's enough. She turned to face him. You're not like the others. You don't hide behind titles or lies. You see danger before it strikes, and... She paused. You listen. He looked at her. Really looked. Her glowing eyes held more than light. They held pain, strength, and something new. Affection. He smiled. You're easier to talk to than most humans. That made her laugh. A soft, clear sound. The moment hung between them, warm and electric. But the peace wouldn't last. A secret report came from Earth's intelligence team. The Tarkoon. Dominion had been building new weapons, devices that blocked telepathy, mind shields. If true, it meant the Valari's greatest strength was now useless. Rian showed the report to the Queen. This is how they're hiding, he said. They've found a way to mask thought. Your people won't see them coming. This changes everything, she whispered. Rian leaned forward. You need to tell the High Council. They will not believe it. They already question me because of you. He stepped back, surprised. Because of me? They think I've let a human get too close, that I'm blind to danger because of emotion. Silence filled the room. Rian nodded slowly. So, what are we? She took a deep breath. You are my protector. But more than that, you are becoming my heart. He didn't speak. He couldn't. His heart beat louder than words. Slowly, gently, he reached out. She met his hand, but just then, alarm sounded. A guard ran in, breathless. My Queen, the council has called an emergency session. They demand to remove the human. Solari's expression hardened. They dare challenge my command? They say he's clouding your judgment, that he put you at risk. They want him exiled. Ryan stood up. If this puts you in danger... No, she interrupted, her voice sharp. You stay, by my side. She marched into the council chamber with Ryan behind her. The advisors were already shouting telepathically, their minds clashing like storms. Vethan pointed at Ryan. This human is the reason our enemies dare attack us. Wrong, Solari answered coldly. He is the reason I am still alive. They tried to overrule her, but she slammed her hand on the speaking stone, her voice booming inside every mind in the room. Captain Ryan Voss stays. Speak against him again, and you speak against your queen. The chamber fell silent. Later that night, Ryan stood at the spire's highest balcony alone. The stars were quiet, but his mind wasn't. He had protected many leaders, fought many battles, but this was different. He wasn't just a soldier anymore. He was part of something bigger, something dangerous, something powerful. The Queen appeared beside him, quiet as ever. Are you afraid? She asked. He looked at her. No, not of war, not of death, only of losing you. She didn't answer with words. She simply took his hand and held it tight. But far away, beyond known space, the Tarkoon fleets moved. They had seen the Queen's public defense of a human, and to them it was a weakness. They would strike soon, not to kill a queen, but to destroy a symbol. The grand chambers of the Valari High Council were silent. but tension filled the air like smoke. Queen Zalari Thal stood tall, her crown shining under the soft blue lights. Beside her stood Captain Rian Voss, wearing his dark earth combat armor, his eyes alert. The council had gathered in secret, but Zalari brought Ryan anyway. She knew what they wanted, to force him away. But she would not let that happen. "He is not the danger," she said, her voice calm but firm. "He is the reason I am alive. He discovered the threat hiding in our palace. You cannot remove him." Councillor Vathan stood slowly, his eyes glowing with anger. "We are not blind, Your Majesty. You are no longer thinking as a queen. You are thinking as a woman." Several councillors murmured in agreement. Some looked away in shame. Others nodded coldly. Ryan didn't move, but he could feel it, the shift. These weren't just politicians anymore. They were afraid, not of him, but of what he represented. "Humans are emotional," Vathan continued. "They act without balance. If the galaxy sees you connected to one, we look weak." Zalari's gaze sharpened. "Love is not weakness." The room fell silent. That single word, love, echoed louder than a shout. Rian looked at her, surprised. She had not spoken it aloud before, not even to him. But she had said it now, in front of her entire ruling council. He stepped forward. "If you want me to leave, I will. But know this, I didn't come here to take anything from you. I came to protect you." Zalari looked at him, her eyes soft but steady. "I will not let you go." The next morning, everything changed. A massive explosion rocked one of the outer towers of the Celestis Spire. Fire and smoke filled the air. Sirens screamed. The Queen's forces rushed to respond, but it was already too late. 50 Valari had died. A message played on every screen in the capital. "This is the Tarkun Dominion. The Valari have fallen under human control. Their queen is compromised. Surrender her and we will spare your cities." The message was cold, brutal, and clear. This was not a threat. It was war. News spread fast. Across the galaxy, different worlds began choosing sides. Some stood with the Valari, others backed the Tarkun. Many remained silent, waiting to see who would fall first. Within the spire, pressure built. More nobles began calling for the queen to step down. Some claimed she was emotionally unstable. Others accused her of secretly preparing Earth to take over the Valari Empire. Zalari called another emergency session, but this time not in the council room. She chose the spire's central plaza, a place open to citizens, soldiers, and diplomats. She wanted the people to see her speak. Standing on a floating platform, the queen raised her hand. Thousands of Valari and off-world visitors gathered to listen. Her voice entered their minds like music, strong, clear, and filled with meaning. "Yes, I care for Captain Voss, not as a ruler to her guard, but as one soul to another. If that love offends you, then let it. If it frightens the Tarkun, let them fear. I will not choose between my heart and my people. I fight for both." Her words shocked the galaxy. Some cheered, some wept. Others called it madness. But Ryan stood nearby, watching her with pride. She wasn't just a queen now. She was a leader willing to risk everything. Hours later, Rian and Zalari sat alone in her private chamber. The tension of the day still hung in the air. "I didn't expect you to say that," Ryan said quietly. She smiled. "I didn't expect to feel it so deeply." He took her hand. "This war, it's not your fault." "I know, but the galaxy won't care." She looked into his eyes. "They will blame us, they already are." At that moment, Ryan's communicator beeped. He answered quickly. A human voice spoke. "Captain Voss, this is Admiral May Torres of the UNSC Archangel Fleet. We're receiving multiple distress signals from Valari border colonies. Tarkun ships are invading." Rian looked at Zalari. "It's starting." She nodded. "Then we must act." Rian and Zalari moved fast. Within hours, he contacted Earth's military leaders. At first, they hesitated. The United Nations Stellar Command had no agreement with the Velari. Sending ships could trigger even more war, but Admiral Torres made her position clear. If we let the Tarkun destroy one of the few peaceful empires in the galaxy, we'll be next. Earth stands with Velari. The first human ships arrived the next day. In the Spire's war room, Velari generals and human commanders worked side by side for the first time. Maps floated in mid-air. Battle data shifted every second. Solari stood in the center. "We must hold the outer ring worlds," she said. "If they fall, the Tarkun will have a direct path to our core systems." Ryan pointed to a weaker zone. "This sector here. What if we draw them in and strike from behind?" One of the Velari generals scoffed. "That's reckless." "But it might work," Solari replied. "Humans think like predators. It's time we learn from that." Meanwhile, whispers spread through the Spire. Some said the Queen had cursed their empire by loving a human. Others called her the first true empress, uniting two worlds by strength and feeling. On one quiet evening, as soldiers trained and engineers prepared weapons, Rian and Zalari sat together on a balcony overlooking the stars. He looked at her hand resting in his. "You've given everything for your people," she smiled sadly. "And I may still lose them." "You won't," he said. "Not while I breathe." They leaned closer. No royal guards, no rules, just two souls, standing against the storm. But even as they found peace in each other, trouble brewed elsewhere. Counselor Vethan, humiliated and angry, sent a secret message to the Tarkun. "I can bring you the Queen," he said, "but I want power in return." The Tarkun replied only with silence, but ships were already on the way, not just to fight, but to capture the Queen. In the cold darkness beyond the stars, a massive Tarkun warship moved closer to the Velari system. On its bridge, the Tarkun High General smiled. "The Queen has made her choice," he said. "She chose the human. Now she will fall with him." He looked down at the glowing screen. "Prepare to strike the Spire." The sky above the Velari homeworld turned red. Tarkun warships broke through the outer defenses like burning arrows. Their engines roared like thunder, and their black hulls swallowed the light. From the highest point of the Celestis Spire, Queen Owie, Zilarithal watched in silence. Captain Ryan Voss stood beside her, helmet in hand. His armor was polished, his face calm, but his eyes were hard. "They're here," he said. Zilari nodded. "They don't come to fight. They come to conquer." "No," Ryan said. "They come to take you." The Tarkun had one goal: capture the Queen. If they took her, they could end the war without wasting more ships. The Spire was their main target. Across the planet, the Velari army scrambled into position. Anti-air weapons charged. Shields went up. Fighters took to the skies, but no one had ever seen a Tarkun assault like this. They used mind-shielding devices, blocking Velari telepathy. Elite assassins dropped from orbit in stealth pods. Drones swarmed like metal locusts. Inside the Spire, chaos began. Ryan took command of the inner defense. He moved through the halls, giving orders to Velari guards and human marines alike. "Fall. Back to the throne chamber," he shouted. "Protect the Queen with everything you've got." Queen Zalari refused to hide. "I will fight with my people," she said. Ryan turned to her, angry. "You're not just their ruler. You're their hope. If they see you fall, they'll stop fighting." She looked into his eyes. "Then I won't fall." The first wave hit the Spire. Explosions rocked the structure. Cracks spread through the golden walls. Tarkun troops broke through the outer gates, moving like shadows. They had new armor, silent, fast, resistant to Velari weapons, but they weren't prepared for Ryan Voss. He led the defense like a storm. He moved faster than the Velari expected, fighting with raw strength and sharp instinct. Tarkun soldiers were bigger, but Ryan was smarter. He used traps, blind corners, and surprise attacks. With a plasma rifle in one hand and a combat knife in the other, he held the line. At his side, Queen Zalari used her power not for reading thoughts, but for projecting courage. Her presence calmed soldiers gave them focus. She reached out with her mind not to control but to inspire. Stand. Fight. Do not break. In the command chamber, human and Valari commanders watched the battle maps in horror. They're breaching the second level, a young Valari officer shouted. Admiral May Torres, leader of Earth's forces, pointed to the tactical screen. We need a counterattack. Something bold, something human. A plan formed. Earth's fleet, still in orbit, would fake a retreat, pulling the Tarkun fleet after them. Then, using fold-space torpedoes, they would jump behind enemy lines and strike their weak supply ships. It was risky. One wrong move and half the fleet would be lost, but they agreed. Execute the maneuver, Admiral Torres said. Let's show the galaxy what humans do when cornered. In space, Earth's ships lit up their engines and turned away. The Tarkun chased them, thinking they were fleeing. But the moment the Tarkun passed the shadow of Valari's second moon, the trap snapped shut. Human warships folded back into real space behind the enemy. Missiles screamed through the void. Tarkun supply ships exploded like stars. Confused and split, the Tarkun armada stumbled. It was the first real damage the Tarkun had taken. The galaxy was watching, and humanity just hit back. Back in the Spire, Ryan and Zalari made their last stand. The throne chamber shook as a massive Tarkun breacher slammed into the wall. Metal twisted. Sparks flew. A dozen armored warriors stepped in, led by the Tarkun general, a giant named Varzul. He was 7 feet tall, covered in black plates with glowing red eyes. "Surrender, Queen," Varzul growled. "I will make your end swift." Zalari stepped forward. "You'll have to go through him first." She pointed to Ryan. The Tarkun laughed. "One human? Against me?" Ryan didn't wait. He charged. The fight was brutal. Varzul swung a massive energy blade, smashing the floor. Ryan dodged, rolled, fired. Nothing pierced the general's armor, but he was fast, smarter. He stabbed the general's knee joint, then climbed his back and smashed the breathing tube. Varzul roared in pain. "You bleed like anyone else," Ryan spat. The general knocked Ryan across the floor. His chest plate cracked. Blood trickled from his mouth. Zalari cried out, reaching toward him. The general moved toward her. But Ryan stood again, bruised, bleeding, unbroken. "You don't touch her," he growled. With a final leap, he tackled the general through the weakened wall. They fell 2 stories. Ryan stabbed the knife into the exposed joint of the general's neck. The light in the Tarkun's eyes faded. Silence followed. Ryan lay still, breathing hard. Then slowly, he rose. Valari soldiers rushed in. The remaining Tarkun fell back. Without their general, they had no leader. Their retreat began. Cheers rose through the spire. The Queen was safe. The enemy was broken. And the galaxy had seen everything. A video of the fight, broadcasted by Valari cameras, spread across star systems within hours. 1 human, 1 queen. Together, they had turned the tide. Later, Ryan sat in the medical bay. His arm was in a sling. His face was bruised, but he was smiling. Zalari entered, her robes torn but her crown still glowing. "You're insane," she said softly. "And you're stubborn." They both laughed. She sat beside him, gently taking his hand. "You've changed everything," she whispered. "So have you," he replied. They didn't need to say more. Outside, Valari and human soldiers worked together. Ships were repaired. Wounded were healed. The battle was over, for now. But a new chapter had begun. Far away, the Tarkun High Command received the news. The Queen lived. Their fleet was damaged. Their plan had failed, but they would not stop. "We underestimated the human," one Tarkun said. "That won't happen again." The war was far from over, but so was the love between the Queen and her protector, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The war was not over, but the battle for the heart of the galaxy had changed. News of the Queen's survival and the human bodyguard's courage spread to every corner of the stars. Across hundreds of planets, people watched the footage. Captain Ryan Voss fighting the giant Tarkoon general, bleeding and broken but never giving up. And beside him, Queen Zilari Thal, proud and fearless, standing against the galaxy's strongest enemy. Their story had become a symbol of hope, a symbol of unity, and most dangerous of all, a symbol of change. For weeks after the battle, the Celestis Spire was under repair. Huge machines floated across the towers, rebuilding the golden walls. Humans and Valari worked side by side, something that had never happened before. Ryan walked the halls with a healing wound in his side and a bandage on his arm. Everywhere he went, Valari citizens bowed their heads in respect. Even those who once hated him now saluted, but Ryan didn't care about the attention, he only looked for her. He found Queen Zilari in the Star Garden, standing among glowing flowers. She was alone, looking up at the stars. "Your Majesty," he said. She turned and smiled. "Captain." He stepped closer. "I thought I'd find you here." "I needed silence," she said softly. "Even a queen must rest her mind." He paused. "You've been quiet since the battle. What's wrong?" She looked down. "The High Council still doesn't support me. They say I've broken Valari tradition, that I let my emotions rule, that loving you made me weak." Ryan's face hardened. "They're wrong. You didn't fall. You rose. You saved your people." Zilari looked into his eyes. "What if saving them means stepping down?" His chest tightened. "You'd give up your crown?" "I would give it up, to choose my own life, my own future." She reached out and touched his hand. "And I want that future with you." Later that night, Queen Zilari called the High Council to the Grand Plaza. Thousands gathered again. Her voice echoed into every mind in the Empire. "I have served you with honor. I have protected our people and stood against fear. But I will not be queen forever. Leadership must pass to those who can carry it forward." Gasps filled the plaza. "I hereby pass the crown to my brother, Prince Saron Thal. He will continue our legacy, and I will walk another path." One counselor shouted, "You abandon your duty?" "No," she said. "I begin a new one." She turned and looked at Ryan, who stood in the crowd. He did not wear armor today, just a simple black jacket and a silver badge, the mark of Earth's highest honor. She stepped down from the platform and walked toward him. The galaxy reacted, like fire meeting air. Some called it madness, some called it bravery, but many called it something new, hopeful. On distant planets, oppressed species began to rise against Tarkoon rule. The sight of a Valari queen choosing a human, stepping down for love, showed them that power did not have to mean control. Earth's diplomats and Valari ambassadors began working together. Treaties were signed, trade routes were opened. A new galactic alliance was forming, one built not on bloodlines but on understanding. For the first time, peace felt possible. Admiral May Torres watched the news from her ship in orbit. She changed the galaxy, she said, smiling. Her aide nodded. And so did the human who refused to leave her side. Weeks passed. The spire was fully repaired. A new ruler sat on the throne. But Rian and Zilari didn't stay in the palace. Instead, they boarded a newly built ship, a joint Earth-Valari cruiser named the Unity Flame. Their mission was peaceful, to visit neutral worlds, to bring messages of peace, to speak, not as rulers or warriors, but as two people who once fell in love in the middle of war. Inside the ship's control room, Ryan leaned back in the captain's chair. Zilari stood beside him, her silver robe replaced with a simple blue coat. "Where to next?" he asked. She smiled. "The Outer Rim worlds. They've asked to speak with us." He looked at her. "They're not worried about a human and a Valari traveling together." She stepped closer and whispered, "Let them worry. We're not here to make them comfortable. We're here to make them think." Ryan laughed. Then he reached into his pocket, a small metal box. He opened it slowly, showing her the simple ring inside. I know you're not a queen anymore, and I'm not just a soldier. But would you stay with me? Solari blinked, surprised. Valari didn't use rings, but she understood. She placed her hand over his. Always. Outside the window, stars drifted past like rivers of light. The ship moved quietly, heading into the unknown. Behind them was war. Ahead of them was a galaxy still divided. But between them, there was love. Epilogue. Years later, children on Earth and Valari listened to a story in school. A long time ago, a human soldier was sent to guard an alien queen. They were different in every way. But when the galaxy fell into war, they stood together. Not with armies, not with lies, but with love. The children asked, "Is it true?" The teacher smiled. "True enough to change the stars."